Looks like everything is all set. We will give some people some time to jump in here. Got about 7 people on right now. What's going on, everybody? I hope everybody is doing well. We're going to give everybody a little bit of time to come jump in as we get started with our chat with Michelle. Really excited to have her today. Michelle and I have been knowing each other for quite a few years now. Had the pleasure of speaking at a lot of different events together around the world, even, right?
Literally. Like you started to
Literally.
say that, and I was like, "Oh my god, how many years and how many conferences?" Like it's been so many.
Yeah, I want to say maybe the first time we really crossed paths was maybe, damn, I don't know. Maybe,
I don't know. It's been so many. It's like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that's a good question. Now that I start thinking about it, I think maybe the most prominent thing I remember is New Orleans. Um,
Mm,
but even prior to that, like we knew one another prior to that as well.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, like I don't even know where it all started. But as everybody's coming in, I see you popping in. I'm assuming you're watching inside of the group right now. Maybe some of you are watching on Instagram as well. But go ahead and chime in the comments. Let us know where you're coming in watching from. I see Tim. Tim was with me in Texas school. What's going on, bro? Emily, how's everything going? Thanks for popping in. Chime in the comments. Let me know where you guys are from. And, we thank you all for coming in. See more people popping up.
Yeah. Jamal is
Instagram.
here.
Jamal's in. I'm testing all of our links here to be sure everything is good. So we're live on the Bokeh Instagram page as well. Let's see. Cameron from North Carolina. Eric, what's up, man? How you doing? I haven't talked to you in a long time. Nicole down in New Orleans. Send her brother some beignets because I love them. Um, Derek down in Tampa. I was just in Tampa. I just got back yesterday, as a matter of fact. So, um, yeah, had to take a vacation after a long week at Texas school. So,
Wow. And Tampa is where you chose to do it. I was like, this is where I'm gonna go.
um,
Like, not that there's anything wrong with Tampa. It's just like not like the natural thought of like, yeah, obviously I got to go to Tampa to vacation.
right. I chose to go to a city that I had never really been to before, right? Um, I like to do that sometimes. Catch me a little cheap flight, city I never went to. Flew into Tampa. I was really in like St. Pete Beach or whatever, and
Okay.
just like hung out on the beach for a couple of days. Um, did you see the comments? Derek's like, "Don't let the smooth taste fool you." Yeah,
Yeah.
he said, "Don't
I
become
said
a
that was
competitor."
wrong with it. It's just like not the obvious choice for vacation, I think.
Mm, that's hilarious. Derek said, "Hold on, don't do
Hold
Tampa
on.
like that." Oh man,
No
that's
shade.
crazy. So again, as everybody's like, coming in. Oh, Vince, what's up, bro?
Eh,
Vince, I love Vince, man. But as everybody's coming in, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I know my time is a little short today. Michelle's time is a little bit short, but we want to be able to go in and dive in. Plus, we do have a free giveaway or for a ticket to the Bokeh Photo Summit sponsored by Sigma that we'll be doing at the end of this call. So,
yes.
if you know anybody that should be on this chat or on this webinar that's not here, have them sign up, send them the link so that they can come through and come hang out with us. And as a matter of fact, let me check the group just in case there's some pendings. Yeah, we got a couple pendings. Now they can pop in as well. So, at the very beginning of this chat, Michelle and I were just kind of reminiscing on the fact of how long have we known each other and where the hell did we even meet? So we don't even know.
Got nothing. We got years and some conference.
Right, and over the years, like again, we've had the pleasure of like working together at different conferences. I've, poked my head in on some of her more workshops and stuff like that, like Vegas and even
Mm.
what you were doing in New Orleans a few years ago, recorded some behind the scenes content, right? It's always best to do what we can to be able to support our fellow creators and whatever it is that they're doing. So naturally, as I started to build out everything, even from the beginning with Bokeh Academy, I reached out, we sat down, we were in Cleveland together. I forgot about that.
Oh
Right.
my, we forget about that. Is what happened.
um, but naturally, as the conference started to come into play, Michelle was one of the people that I reached out to participate inside of the event. Now, so for those who aren't aware, maybe some of you aren't, but I do have the Bokeh Photo Summit. This is our first year. It's taking place in Atlanta, August the 12th through the 14th. I'm excited for this event, and people keep asking me like, "Oh, what's it going to be like?" I can guarantee you, it's going to be different than any other conference experience that you've had so far. So, I'm definitely putting my money where my mouth is with that. So if you know me, know that I keep it 1,000 with stuff. So, Nicole, yeah, appreciate the support. I definitely look forward to being able to see you there, right? But Michelle is one of our instructors, right? She's going to be coming in talking to us about or on the topic of weddings, right? Um, and we're going to be well, she's going to be talking to you all about like her posing methods, right? Now, we know that at other conferences in the past, Michelle has taught like the posing methods, right? But I can imagine that these things evolve over time. So I don't expect to say, "Hey, yeah, you're gonna learn the same things that you learned from previously at different conferences," because the goal is to evolve, right? That's if we're not evolving, we're dying at this point, right? So if you're doing the same old, then you need to level up. But let's go back a little bit and get a little bit of history from Michelle and where you started in photography and why weddings. Because I get that question all the time. People are like, why did you choose weddings? So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was an insurance agent, and I was like, you know what? I just want to have like a side hustle. And I was convinced that I would be a newborn photographer because I was like, I'm not having any more kids. So this would be a way that I can love on babies and then give them back. Uh, but I did all that. I bought all of the things. I bought all of the like the bean bags, the little wraps, and like all of the little things. And I hated every second of it, every single second. So I sold all that stuff, except my camera. And then my brother asked me to shoot his wedding in his backyard. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I loved doing it. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. To really emphasize that point, I had a like Canon SLR one. I don't even know if they make them anymore, but real little tiny little camera. And I, for a backyard wedding, rented a 70 to 200. That's how much I didn't know what I was doing. But very like I didn't need it, but I did end up putting them like up on the top of a hill and shooting them there. So like I used it, but like the last thing I needed was 7,200. But I just loved it. And then so I started like just kind of like third shooting ish, just being at weddings with wedding photographers that I knew. And I only did that twice. But right after that, I just started like second shooting, and then I just went off to the races. Like I was using back then, I mean, this was 2015. So I was using like Thumbtack, and I was getting all these like, $800-900 weddings, but like I'm in corporate and making $800-900 every weekend. I'm just like loving life. Okay. So at the end of the year, though, I looked and I was like, okay, well, I made $10,000 more doing photography than I did as an insurance agent. So what if I just put all that energy and 40 hours every week into my
Right.
business and took off? But like throughout that, like I knew that weddings was something I love. Like I thrive off of like pressure, fast pace, that type of thing, which is something that you need to be able to do in order to be in weddings. Like just because you love love doesn't mean that you should be shooting weddings, okay? Because there's a lot more than just the love that happens on a day. But I fell in love and never really looked back.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's kind of well. I People ask me like, "Oh, why did you get into weddings?" And I tell them all the time, like, I mean, I literally got into it um for the money, right? Because I started off doing um portraits, and with doing the portraits, what I was charging at the time, just starting out, it just wasn't doing enough for me in terms of bottom line. Like it just wasn't adding up. So weddings, I knew that people had some sort of expectation of what it was that they had to pay. So I started there. I kind of wrote out this little chart. I talk about it all the time. Wrote out this little chart, the number of weddings that I could do, 20, 30, the different price points in order to, to figure out roughly what I could make in a year. I did that
Mm,
in 2015. I still have that. I never erased it. I still have it on a whiteboard sitting, right over here. It's on this whiteboard. I charge way more money than that at the time or whatever. I mean, right now. But it's good to be able to show it to people when I'm in workshops, right? To say, hey, these are the numbers that I was looking at when I first started. Don't look at what I'm charging now, right?
mm,
Look at
mm,
the progression, because it's all about progression. People try to move too fast, and
mm,
you can end up shooting yourself in your foot, whether it's burnout, right?
mm.
Or whether you're charging too much for your skill set, you're pricing yourself out. So that's one thing to consider. Now, so for you, what is your favorite part about the wedding day?
Mm. My favorite part is still couple portraits. So like if I could just do the couple portraits, I would, but I know that there's just so much more to it. Like, but that's why I teach on how to pose like under pressure and quickly, because over the years I've learned that no matter how well planned out a wedding is, no matter how much space they added to each little section, that like things get down to the wire and you got to know what to do in a short amount of time. So I've gotten to the point where what I teach on is how to do things quickly and efficiently, because it gets to the point where I only have that maybe 10, 15 minutes to do my favorite part of the wedding. So that's
Right.
I got where I'm at now.
Right. And like literally that was going to be my next question to you, because people ask me that all the time. It's like, well, how much time do you actually get to, photograph people on the wedding day? I got asked that all week long while at Texas school, and try to tell people it's not a lot. It's
It's
not a
not.
lot at all, you know. So, there's no correct answer for that. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Other times it can be 45 minutes. And then I had a wedding. I was so pissed because it was an NFL player too.
Mm,
Literally, I went outside, I took the test shot, right?
mm,
I got my settings. I
mm.
took two shots. The wedding, the planner's assistant took them inside. That was it. All I got. That's all I
Wow.
got.
So you literally
Uh,
only got like one.
uh, I got one, right? Because it's the same shot. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, damn. And then at the end of the night, you know how it is. You on the dance floor still taking photos, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, how long before we get the pictures back?
What page? You about to get this one?
Right. You about to get some decor shots and some ceremony shots with one photo, right?
Wow.
Um, it's just like that at times. So like even for me, my favorite part of the wedding day is bride prep.
Hmm.
Um, that gets me going. The bride prep is kind of what sets the tone for me and what it is the rest of how the rest of the day will go, right? Because I'm shooting to build albums and things of that nature. So I may shoot the details 3 or 4 times until I have it mapped out in my head what those album spreads are going to look like. And then as I'm shooting through the rest of the day, I can kind of envision what images will go where throughout, the rest of the album.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. But I don't get that excited about that. Walking into a room with all these women with stuff everywhere that I got to tell to move around and do this and do that. And I have a whole system for it, but that's not the point. It's
Right.
not my favorite part. I don't hate it. I don't hate any part of the wedding day. I mean, maybe the last like 45 minutes if I have to stay to do like an exit that they didn't want to do earlier. That may be my least absolute least favorite part. But
Right.
mm, couple.
Yeah, nah, I feel you. I feel you. So tell me how did the posing system, what's the technical name for whatever? Because if I'm not mistaken, you have like a whole acronym for it, right?
Well, kind of. Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. So the whole like name of it is 48 couple portraits in 8 minutes.
Hmm.
So, and then within that, there is a acronym that I use called LASH, where it's like micro adjustments that add to everything. So I already, I teach like when to do what, when, how, quickly, and then when you use Lash into it. So how did it come about? Is I just, like I said, I realized that more often than not, I didn't have a lot of time, so I had to figure out how to quickly change the look of the image without a lot of movement. um, and a lot of times you only have one location in one of those situations, so just trying to figure out how to put them in one place and get the most variety. And so once I figure that out, I just never look back.
Now with using this method, right? Um, I can imagine some people are gonna say, well, what about those couples that are awkward, or what about the groom who's like being difficult? How does this assist or make that part of it run smoothly?
So it actually eliminates all those things, because you're letting them know, like, look, this is the only time we have, and I just need you to focus in this little bit of time, and this is what I need you to do. But also, having a engagement session beforehand and doing these same steps is really what like preps them for it, so they already know what you're asking them to do. It's
Right.
not impossible to do it without, but it definitely makes it really, really simple and easy to do if you've already done the engagement session. But like I make it really easy for men, so there's not a lot of pushback ever from them because literally I just make them put their hand in their pocket. And once I put them in a pose, don't move from that pose until I tell you to. Because people
Right.
don't realize how much time it takes to put the people back into a pose, even if it's just a hand in a pocket and turning a little bit. To redo that adds time that we ain't got time for.
That
So
no, we don't have. Right.
right. And so, I mean, if you already have a system and you're like, okay, we got this much time, this is what we're going to do. And you're constantly telling them, okay, this, let's do this, let's do this. They don't have time to argue back and forth with you about like, oh, trying to do other things. They're focused because you're not stopping in the whole process of telling them what to do because you only got a little bit of time. So it actually makes it better than if you had a whole hour and like after like 30 minutes, he's like, all right, are we done now? They don't even have enough time to think like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because that's one of the things that I find the most when couples reach out for consultations. You're like, oh, well, we don't really take a lot of photos. Are you going to help us with our posing? I'm like, I'm gonna pose you every step of the way. Like I do this for a living, right? I get complimented on my posing all the time. I've won awards for these things. If
Right.
somebody pointed a camera in front of my face, it's a wrap. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, guys, what's going on? How do you want me to pose? You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
exactly what it look like.
but you gotta remember that there are like that's still a valid question for them to ask you though, because there are like plenty of photographers that do it very differently. They're like, "Oh no, we just want you to be natural, and we'll just give you some prompts," and it works for them. So like, y'all have at it. But more often than not, I ain't got time for them to just be natural and cracking jokes or asking them questions and stuff. I'm like, nope, do this. But everybody, moves differently and does things differently.
Right. Everybody moves differently. I will say though, if you're a photographer, you're like, oh, I just let everybody just kind of do their thing or whatever. I'm gonna eat you up in that consultation every single time, right? Because people are awkward. I've had some of the most beautiful couples or whatever that just awkward on camera. You got to keep in mind, people post selfies. They might take 100 selfies before they get that one that they actually like, right? So, with you being on the other side, you need to be able to be aware of, what their quirks are, which is why that engagement session is important. And in the beginning of my career, I used to charge for the engagement session, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then at some point, I ended up removing the charge and just making it complimentary because too many people were opting out because they were trying to save money. And then when you get there on wedding day or whatever, then you got Mr. and Mrs. Ricky Bobby, and you haven't figured out all of those quirks. Like one of the things, people that are excessive blinkers,
Mm,
like there are some people you got to shoot, 3 times as many shots because they blink so much, right?
mm. Yeah, but you see, you're better than me by telling them complimentary because I be like, oh, can we take this out? No, no, you can't take the engagement session out, and this is why. Because like I'm going to explain to you that I prefer, strongly prefer, to meet you before and have taken your pictures before, so that you can see, what you look like in these poses, and then I can replicate the ones that you absolutely love at your wedding too. And then you'll know all my posing, you'll know what I'm going to ask you to do on your wedding day, and so everything will flow smoother. And most people would be like, "Oh, okay." Then they don't look at it as a burden. So I
Right.
still tell them no. I don't care how much it costs. There's some exceptions like military and people that won't be together between now and their wedding. But most
Right.
time I'll be like, mm-mm, you cannot take it out. And yes, it costs money because it costs, like, it's included in my collections. But this is how much it would cost because I'm gonna do all this work. So
So
I mean,
I included in my collections, right? So when they ask me, "Oh, can they remove it?" I'm like, "You can, but there's no monetary value there. Like it's
okay,
complimentary. The price is the price, right?" Um,
right.
but back in the day, I used to charge an additional 750 for the session, right? And then they were trying to save that 750. They were like, "Oh nah," and I was like, "Oh my god." About year and a half in, I was like, nope, can't do that no more.
And
Can't do
never change back.
right. We need to meet. I need to know how awkward you are. And I had one session. It was so bad. The groom, first thing he said when he walked up, they arrived separately. So we're standing there talking, she and I having a great conversation, laughing. He walks up, face just as straight as can be.
Oh
He
boy.
gets there. I said, "Hey man, how you doing?" He was like, "Just so you know, I don't smile in photos." I was like, "Hello to you too, bro." Whole
Wow.
session, he was just rude, bro. He was super rude, right? But I felt bad for her because in that situation, she's trying to like diffuse or whatever, right? But I'm
Mhm.
doing everything that I possibly can to loosen him up through the session. Now, if you know me, you know I don't like smiling photos. I don't like people to smile in photos. Um, Camera aware. Let me be more specific. I think like camera aware smiling. That's the grandma pic, the parent pic. I snag a couple of those. Outside of that, I don't have them smile camera aware, but I will have them interact with one another, right? But I got him. I got him. I made it my mission to get it like super camera aware so he can never say I
You
don't
don't.
smile in photos. And when I delivered the gallery, that's the image I had at the very top.
You
Petty.
want to make sure he knew that
Yeah,
you got that picture of him
right.
smiling.
Super petty. Now, guys, be sure that you chime in with comments for, mostly Michelle, right? Because I'm on all of the webinars, right? But chime in with comments and things like that because I'm paying attention and I'm adding these names to the giveaway. If you were on any of the last ones, I'd literally do it live. I'll put all the names in. We spin a little wheel, and then whoever wins wins. And be sure that when you win, you tag Michelle, tag Bokeh Photo Summit, and our sponsor, who is Sigma.
Mm.
Now, let me run back. So how long, because this is another question that I get, people ask me about ambassadorships. I do have a lot, right? People are like, oh, well, how do you get ambassadorships?
Mm.
So Sigma's a pretty big deal, right? So tell us how that all came about for you.
Yeah, and it's funny. I realized on Facebook, like memories today, that it was 4 years ago today that I became a Sigma ambassador. It's crazy. Uh,
Ah,
so how that worked is the first year that I applied and spoke at WPI was 2019, and so oh no, was it 20? Oh gosh, it was. I think it was 2019. Either way, I went to the Sigma booth because I had all my Sigma lenses and they do like free cleanings there at WPI. So if you have anything Sigma, you can always take it and they'll clean it for free, which is amazing because I am terrible at cleaning these things. I don't even remotely think about doing it. And then when I did that, the um, the marketing manager was also at the booth and like taking in the lenses. And when I pulled out, because I had like maybe six or seven, and I pulled them all out, and he was like, "Oh wow, you have quite a few." And then he saw my badge that I was a speaker already. And then he just started asking questions like, "Oh, what's your social media like? And do you have a community?" And like I did and does, so I gave him all the things. And then he gave me his card and was like, "Okay, like just follow up with me." And that whole year, I followed up like four times. I got absolutely nothing, and I was just like, "Well, guess that's it." And then like a couple months before WPPI in 2020, they realized I was already speaking. So this was a slick little thing they did, low key. It was like, well, she's already going. Okay. She's already getting paid to go. She's already getting her flight taken care of. Already got her hotel done. Let's see if she'll teach a class on our stage. Because that year they had a pretty big booth. And so low key, that was my audition, which I didn't really fully know. And so the moment that I got off the stage from teaching a class, they were like, let's talk ambassadorships. I was like, yes. But like in reality, I truly believe that they were watching me throughout that year because these companies, it's really, really important that whoever they choose to represent them are good people to represent them. And so once they watched me for quite a while and then I did a good job teaching, they were like, this is it. And this is all right before COVID hit. Because some of us went home with COVID, didn't know it was COVID. It
right.
was the whole thing. And then so it took them obviously a couple months because it's May. So yeah, it took them some months to get everything together. And then I've been an ambassador for 4 years now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because for some reason, I mean, granted, don't get me wrong, like COVID was 4 years ago, right? But it seemed like you've been an ambassador for so long, right?
Yeah.
Was that your first ambassadorship or no?
Mm, no, I think right before then I was a Fundy ambassador. Uh,
Okay.
I believe that was it. I can't even remember the chronological order. I barely remember the year just now. So, but like before then, I had just started teaching like little local like get together type of things. I can't even fully call them like workshops, but like I was teaching because like I knew that when I started shooting in 2015, I could not find anybody who was super big in weddings that looked like me and like to learn from. So I knew that like once I got to the point where I could teach people, I was going to. Like that was always my goal was to help people. Like I to the second do not claim to know everything. And I'm not a master of all the things, but anything that I can teach people, I will because I love to help people and teach people and make things easy and simple.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like I used to tell people all the time, like, "Oh, I love your stuff. I would like to learn from you." I'm like, "You don't want to learn from me, Like, I don't do the same stuff that everybody else does or whatever. Like, what I do is very simple." And then as I started to get into like, I taught my first workshop in 2018, I think it was.
Mm,
Um, the approach was basically to start showing people that it's not this convoluted thing that you think it is. Like what it is that we do in terms of the technical is
mm,
easy. People just make it too technical, right? And most of the time I start out a class, if anybody's in here that's been in any of my classes at like Shutter or something like that, they know that's the first thing I tell you. Truth is, what I'm going to teach you is not going to take me more than 10 minutes. The rest of the time, you guys will be shooting. Once I show you how easy this is, you'll see that you're really just overthinking it. And generally, by the end of the class, people are like, damn, I really have been, overthinking it. So, I think it's best to simplify.
definitely.
So, we do have a few questions. So let's go with Vince first, right? He says, with such a limited time to shoot on your favorite part and the planner whisks the couple away, how do you manage or approach the expectations of not delivering portraits that didn't make it in time?
I mean, I'm quick to like if they did that and went off with the planner, anything like that. I'm quick to. I'll say something as soon as I possibly can, like in the wedding day, and be like, "You do know that I only got two pictures." Like I say it straight like that to them, like, and then they can do what they want with that information, but like I've looked you in the eye and told you that this is what happened. Like we could run off now and do more if you're choosing not to. I have communicated with you and told you, hey, this is what you got. You go take it or not.
Yes, that's something that I'm mindful of too. Like, hey, just so you know, because we all know you got to cover your butt in this situation because people will be the first ones to say you didn't get XYZ. So you know, we want a refund or something like that. Like I've heard stories from other people about things that they've gone through that I'm like, I
I could
know better, you know?
see, and then in instances, maybe not like that, where like the planner obviously took them away, but like sometimes, like even during like family photos, there'll be like this long list of things of every different photo they want, and then they'll get somewhere in there, and they're like, "Man, we could skip this or skip that or whatever." I make sure when they start saying stuff like that, I will get either my phone or let my assistant do it on their phone and just like, pretend they're just doing behind the scenes a video. But I'm going to have them record me, be like, okay, are you sure you want to skip these, this, and this? You're sure? And then in the video, they can see that I said, and you said, no, yeah, we're good. Just in case.
Right.
Because It's all he said, she said, unless you got it on video. Just throwing it out there.
So moving on with our questions, and remember, guys, the questions, that's how logging you guys in to determine who is eligible to win this ticket to the Bokeh Photo Summit. So go ahead, ask away with your questions. We're moving on. Eric is asking, is it best to do a first look? That's a good one, right? So that you can get more shots of the bride and groom together.
Mm. Um, Always, but not even just so much for that. I go in depth and explain to my couples that, like, if you don't do the first look, like, and we all know this, but like, you have to explain it this way. Like I say, after the ceremony, you're gonna look at me and say, "Hey, I need you to take pictures of me and my whole family, and my spouse and their whole family, and us and our bridal party, and the two of us." And like, it happens, we get it done, but like, the whole hour that's happening, you're constantly, your mind is moving, which means time is flying, because as the client, they're just standing there. Even if you have a list and all the things, they're still thinking to themselves like, okay, all right, well, where's so and so? All right, are they almost here? Are they like, it just goes really, really fast. And then you only have the 10 minutes, and then you go into the reception and you think that you're going to be able to relax, and you're not. So like, I push that aspect of like how stressed they're going to be,
Right.
in order to get them to see that a first look would be better. Do I personally feel like I get that much more photos like of the two of them? I don't. I feel like I just get more variety of locations when I do that. When we have a first look, that gives me time to do poses in different places. I'm gonna
Right.
do all of them in one in that 8 minutes if you only gave me the 8 minutes. But otherwise, we'll
Right.
be able to spread it out. So that's how I put it.
That's actually a good segue into Marvin's question. He says, "How do you keep your poses creative? And do you ever feel mundane if you do the same pose over again from a list?"
So I don't. I don't feel mundane doing the list of poses that I do, because no matter what, they're going to look different. It's different people. We're in different things with different backgrounds, and a lot of times people pick you from what they see. And you have to remember that, like, they went on your Instagram, your website, or whatever, and was like, "Ooh, I want to look like that." So they're not gonna be like, "Oh, you want me to twirl around like that one picture I saw on Instagram? You don't have nothing else." They're not. They're gonna be excited about it and be like, "Oh, I remember I saw this, and now I am gonna get to look like that." And it's gonna be at a different place with different lighting, different outfit, different everything. So now, if there's gonna be like anything creative, I like might shoot through something, or put something like some foreground and have them on a third. But I don't claim to be the super creative, artistic type of photographer. That's just not who I've ever claimed to be. I am a person who's going to shoot gorgeous images wherever I'm at, and I'm going to make it efficient and do my job. But that's why I don't have, "Hey, come learn how to be incredibly creative and use mirrors and different things to make it look different." That's just not me.
Right.
So everybody's got their thing. If that's your thing, then you running full force to it. Because I know some incredibly creative humans that teach out there, and I probably should go learn from them to add to it.
Oh man, so Maurice has a question. Do you only use Sigma lenses or do you use some of the native lenses from your camera brand?
Nope. I only use Sigma lenses. I have been shooting Canon cameras my whole career, and I had a couple of them before I became an ambassador. But I only had two, and I feel like they were interchangeable. Like, I used to have a Canon like L85 lens, but I did not feel like it was leaps and bounds better than the Sigma, so I was not heartbroken to part ways with it at all.
Oh snap! She said,
I'm
"I,
serious.
I, I was not impressed." Basically,
Mm-mm.
but
Not for that
so
price. Nope.
yeah, the price points are definitely crazy. I will say though that I'm all about the native glass. I'm sure it's changed since when I first started, but I remember I had my Canon lenses, and then I bought a Tamron 70 to 200, and I'm at a shoot, and I'm shoot with my Canon. I shoot with the Tamron or whatever, and I'm like, why does this look different? And the
Mm,
colors were off, going back and forth between the two lenses. And
mm.
at that point, I said I'll only shoot one brand, and that one brand for me.
Hold right. Nobody
Can
told you to use Tamron. That's not what.
hey, I just started. I had just started too. So I was like, nah, fam, like never again. And since then, I haven't shot anything else.
Mm,
Um, let's see. I saw one. Anthony, here it goes. She was like, what made you choose Sigma over the Sony natives? First off, we don't do Sony on this call at all. So boom. So boom, Anthony, right? But I'm assuming, over the native stuff. And I guess just what I gathered from the last comment was that, price wise, right?
right. I mean, like I said, when I started, like I was insurance agent, a single mom. I'm like, I bought a 35 was my first Sigma lens, and I loved it. So I was like, if I love this, I'm sure I'm gonna love the other ones that they make. So why would I go spend twice as much on something else and just been rocking with it?
Right, right. Lynette is chiming in. She says, how do you politely tell cell phone photographers to stop when you're taking professional photos, or do you?
Hmm. I don't tell people not to take cell phone photos unless they're like in the space. Like as long as they're out of this space, we're in good. I don't care. There's nothing that anybody can do with a cell phone picture that is going to rival whatever I'm shooting. So I'm not concerned about it. Now I don't let anybody just sit like follow me around to different places on a wedding day, like one guest or maid of honor, or whatever, doing it everywhere. At some point, I'm like, okay, give me some time, or I'll give them something to do. I'm quick. Oh, you know what? Is there any way you could go get her some water? I don't know if she need water or not, but I'm just to go do something to get out of the way. And then there are instances like certain how you say it, like certain foreign weddings where you can't be too nice. There are times where they actually respect you if you're not, or if you do, because they will run over you. Like Nigerian weddings, as the last thing you need to be, oh, do you think you could? They're going to run over you. So you got to be like, hey, no, like they literally respond better to that. So you gotta, I don't know, like figure out your surroundings before speaking to people about these things.
Oh, they got one over here on Instagram. Mac is asking, what's your dream location to shoot a wedding?
Santorini. That's it for me.
You mean
And like, I mean, I'm not even gonna like I want to shoot it, but then I also like the next day when I go get one of them flying dress pictures for myself. So I just want to do both.
right, right? Yeah, nah. The Santorini is dope. I was supposed to go for an engagement session last year. Damn, couple broke up though. Oh, salty,
Yo, my
super.
couple from November 26th called me in February, talking about they getting a divorce.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. But it's not as bad as not going to Santorini.
Right. I was salty. Matter of fact, we were in Cleveland, right? So I get back to the hotel. Bride texts me, right? She's like, yo, I want to do another engagement session. I'm like, cool. what do you want to do? She was like, I want to go to Mykonos and to Santorini. I'm like, okay, bet, right? So we started talking about locations and stuff. 5 minutes later, sends me my confirmation for the booking of the stay or whatever. I'm like, bet. Man, about a month later, they split up. I was salty, super salty.
That's,
But that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, man.
yep.
Let's see. Cameron says, "How do you respectfully tell the client that their budget does not warrant luxury, and you're gonna get what you pay for?"
Wait a minute. Their budget doesn't warrant luxury photos. I'm a little confused because, like, what is the budget? I feel like those are like planners.
Now I'm curious what the budget is. I mean, what the budget is. One, I'm assuming for photography, right? So we're gonna assume, Cameron, unless you chime in, that budget a luxury photographer, because I keep it 1,000. I get consultations all the time. People are like, "Oh, I love your work. It's so amazing. We just can't wait to have you on our day." And they're like, I'm like, "Oh, what's your budget? Oh, photo and video, 1,500, ma'am, ma'am,
Okay.
get off the phone."
So I avoid that by having my starting price right above my contact form. So people don't fill out my contact form unless they have the bare minimum of where I start. So I don't have to tell them anything. They just don't. They don't say anything. They just don't fill it out. And I know there are people who like don't, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just get them in and sell them up, or upsell them, whatever." And you could do that. But I also had someone come and inquire with me, and in the inquiry wrote that they're pretty sure that they can't afford ream photography. So they're inquiring with me. And I'm like, so I had a ream. And I'm like, bro, what'd you start at? He was like 7. I was like, me too.
That's funny.
Very interesting. But he doesn't have his prices on there.
Got it.
So they assumed that they just couldn't afford. They just saw, how gorgeous everything was, and was just like, I probably can't afford that. And people don't understand like that. It's uncomfortable to have to admit to anyone that you can't afford something. So
Right.
that's why people get ghosted and all that. Like, because nobody wants to write back in any form, okay, not text or email, nothing, that they can't afford something that they want.
Right.
Because so that's how I guess I don't have to tell them that they can't afford me. They know whether they can or not.
Off top. Okay. Emily is asking, what's one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started photography?
To always have a backup camera, and always have a second shooter. But that's my personal opinion. But I just feel like I've learned over the years that they are invaluable, not just for like the client, but for you. Okay. So once I use a card, I shoot with a Canon R6, and it has a battery grip on it because I don't like to change batteries. So one time I'm shooting the ceremony processional, and I'm just standing up there, and for some reason my camera, like every other photo or so, is turning off and on, and I'm trying not to like flip out. I don't know what's happening. I'm thinking it's just like malfunctioning. Basically, I realized that it was loose, and so every other time I was either pushing the battery into the camera or not. But like when it turns off and turns back on, it like takes a second. The screen comes back on. This is during these people are walking down the aisle. So long story short, I was able to get my second shooter to figure out something was wrong, and to swap with me, and I fixed it and came back. But if I didn't have that person, I just would have had missing images. And there's a
Right.
lot of instances like that on top of the fact you can't be in two places at once. So that personally for me is something I wish I had known like earlier, and something I tell everybody that I highly recommend having a second tutor, even if they're just there with you all day. And maybe they're not as good as you, like if they only paid for a package that only includes you, still bring somebody, just a human that can go do something or press a button that you could fix it later or something. But like having someone there as opposed to just shooting by yourself is something I highly recommend.
Yeah, even if it's just like, to assist, like a gopher, like, yo, I left XYZ upstairs or whatever, like go run and get that, because you either have to take the time to go do that, or you have to do whatever it is that you were planning on doing without that thing or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, we have a couple people that are asking, what's your favorite lens?
Ugh, makes me sad. Um, so right now I can still talk about it. It's a Sigma 40 millimeter lens, which is, people don't know much about it. It is also now being discontinued, so it
Oh,
makes me sad. But what happened was there was 35 and the 50, everybody knows, but like the 40 that Sigma makes was bigger and longer, and it just has more glass in it. I'm not a super tech person, but just trust me, it has all the amazing things in it. And for some reason, that lens is sharper and faster than any other lens I've ever had. But because of all of the extra glass and all the things they had to put in it, it was super, super expensive. And they had it at 1600, like super expensive for Sigma. It was 1600
right.
when, 35 and all that. It's like 900. And so they brought it down, and then people still weren't buying it enough to make it worth it. So they stopped producing it. Not that it wasn't amazing. So, I mean, outside of that, I think I'm gonna have to go with my 85 1.4 Sigma art lens.
85-1.4. It's funny. I've never shot with an 85. Like I've shot with an 85, right? Like yeah, type thing or whatever.
Mhm.
But I've never like shot with an 85. Historically my go-to has always been 70 to 200, because I love the compression, right? So if you know me, that's been my go-to for a long time, until that 28 to 70 came out, and it was a wrap after that. Like that lens is on my camera the majority of the time.
Why
Uh,
take it off?
right. Let's see. Alexis is asking, what's your normal bag look like for events versus for studio portraits? Do you do studio stuff?
Not really. Like I'll do them if people ask me for them. Like I'll rent a studio. I used to have one.
Right,
Real
you
funny
did.
story.
Yeah.
Because I got it February of 2020. It was the perfect time to sign a year lease for something. But yeah, I also am kind of the worst. I use my what is that bag called? Oh my gosh, I can't even think of it. The the suitcase bag that I use. Oh my god, I can't think. But I keep everything the same. I don't change anything. I don't bring less for an engagement session. Every time I've done that, I've regretted it. I'm like, oh, I only need these couple of lenses, and then I regret it. So I keep everything the same and always have all of the things with me.
Okay. Yeah. Who are you using? Think Tank or
Thank you. Jeez, I could not think of that name. Yeah, I use my think tank bag all the time, which I'm obsessed with because I love the fact that I can turn it into a backpack at a moment's notice. I actually had to do that in DC recently, and this security guard was trying to play me too, because he was like, "You're gonna have to check that bag," and I was like, "Well, how am I gonna bring all my stuff?" He was like, "Well, you can put it on your back," and I was like, "Bet."
it's like
We his
you
face.
reminded me. Oh
Oh.
no, that's funny. Anthony is asking, how did you settle on your style of imaging?
So I have always, from the day I picked up my camera, always known that I loved like bright images. It was just a matter of how bright, and navigating, learning how to balance like skin tones and that type of thing. But I don't know. It's just it. I went with what makes me the happiest. I've always known that brighter photos make me happy. I love like darker and moodier photos and different styles. But no matter how much I love them, they didn't make me as happy at the end of the day. And I always felt like that's what's important. And that's what's important across the board with doing photography as a whole, because it's like you are voluntarily getting into this. Okay, you get to choose. You get to choose what type of photography, what days you want to make available, how much you want to charge. Everything is your choice. So do those things that make you happiest, and the people will come.
Right. That's what's up. Derek is asking. This is I think I know the answer to this. This is the great debate. Primes or zooms?
I prefer primes. However, very
However,
lately, I have admittedly gotten lazy. And I have just been rocking out with this 24 to 70 a lot. Because it'd be like, why take it off? I know if I had that 28 to 70, it was too
oh,
it would never come off. Because, like, for what? But preferably, I do love primes.
you love primes. Okay. Okay. I'll say this. Everybody knows I am zooms over primes, and that 28 to 70 just closes the case for me. It is a prime. I mean, it is a zoom that performs like a prime.
Mm-hmm.
Case closed. F2, you know, if you have to be at two at 1.4, 1.2 to create good images, find
Yeah.
another job. Find another job.
Hello. Or find some light, because you need to figure out how to get some light.
So Jamal says Andre shared his man with no smile story. Michelle, share a quick horror story from a wedding or a client.
Ooh, what a horror story. God. I hmm. I was shooting this wedding, and I had quite a big team because it was photo and video. So there were five of us, because there was two photographers, two videographers, and just like an assistant to help with bags, whatever, behind the scenes. And it was dinner time, and I do not know what was wrong with this mother, but she just had an attitude. I don't. It was like some family drama going on, something that didn't have nothing to do with us. And so they had pushed things up, like started dancing earlier than we were supposed to, just because a whole bunch of other things were behind. So I sent my whole team to go eat. And the planner had already known how many people are supposed to eat, all the things. And so she was working on it. But one of my videographers just needed a fork. Okay, that's all they needed. But nobody was coming back into this room we were in. And they went over to where the kitchen was at, and she was in the middle of arguing um, about something about the food. I don't know. And they were just like, "Hey, can I just get a fork?" And this lady was like, "Oh, are you eating while they are doing things inside of the reception right now? Like, this is the appropriate time to have a break? Where is the girl that I paid to shoot this wedding?" Anyway, yeah. When they came back and told me what happened, I immediately went to the bride to forewarn her that I was going to talk to her mother about something that had happened. I didn't even tell her what happened. And she was like, "Handle your business." And that was it. So I went and I talked to the mom, and I was like, "I'm sorry, did you have an issue with us eating? We've been here since like 10 a.m. Keep in mind, it's like 8 p.m. And she's just like, oh, well, and then everything turned into oh, I didn't say it like that. I didn't have an attitude. And I know my video, I would never make that up. But she just spun it around and then just tried to act like it didn't happen and we moved on. But it was a lot of tension the rest of the evening
I can imagine.
for obvious reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So Marvin wants to know, and Marvin has a million and one questions,
Oh, Marvin.
as always, right? But we love Marvin. He said, "What keeps you motivated in today's landscape?" Good question.
Ooh, feeding my children. Like, yo, listen, 2023 try to take me out, okay? And 2024, I'll be looking like, hmm, I do love this, right? And then I get out there and I'm like, I do love doing this. But like, it's rough out here to stay motivated to keep going. There's a lot of things that are changing.
A lot of things changing, and I was having a conversation with a photographer yesterday. Like, it's great to like keep it real. There's so many people out here like, oh, I'm winning, bullshit. You know, everybody's going through like a shift. It doesn't matter what industry it is, right? So, if you got somebody that's just like they always winning or whatever, like they the second coming or something, because like let's just keep it 1,000. There will always be those outliers, right? But everybody can't be an outlier. I had more cancellations last year from couples breaking up than
Mm.
I had in my entire. I'm on my ninth year, right? This is my ninth year. I had 9 cancellations last year.
Wow.
Prior to that, I had two
Wow.
total, right? So I mean, couples are breaking up, things are happening or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're as an industry experiencing the effect of the engagement gap because of COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
now we're also experiencing all of those couples breaking up who got together. They was on the struggle bus together during COVID, and then now they don't like each other no more because everybody can go outside. you know
They got more options.
all right, so let's keep that at 1,000, and that's just how it is. Even friends of mine and things of that nature, like people are going through things right now, and your couples will be some of those people, unfortunately. So, be sure those contracts are tight, because when they come back, like, can I get a refund? Absolutely not. Ab-
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. It is what it is, what it is at this point.
Mhm.
So, let me see. We got a couple more. I'm not gonna keep her, but we do have a couple more. Two of them are kind of related. One is there a best way to find second shooter opportunities? And then Clifton asked, how long did you shoot as a second shooter before going out on your own? So we'll drop those in there together since they're similar.
Got you. So I didn't second shoot as long as I probably should, if I'm being honest with you.
Right.
Um, I am one of those people that just, walk in fire and figure it out. But I recommend however many you need to second shoot to feel comfortable charging the minimum of like $1,500. You keep shooting, second shooting until you feel that way. Like there is no reason for you to first shoot a wedding for free. That means you don't have the knowledge and have no business shooting a wedding at all. I don't care how small it is. I don't care what's going on. Uh, I don't recommend it personally. I think that you should, if you don't feel comfortable charging $1,500, you need to keep second shooting or third shooting. Now, finding second shooter opportunities, I personally believe that the first step is offering to just be maybe a third shooter or behind the scenes first. When someone is there, like in that environment, one, you figure out if this is for you or not without being responsible for anything. But also, if you're in the right place at the right time and you are helpful and all of that, that person is going to want you to come along more And then, if you were able to produce some things and show how you could be valuable, then they might upgrade you to second shooting. But either way, you're in that environment during that time. You have behind the scenes. You might be able to snap a couple pictures. All depends on how that those people run their business. But that's what I recommend.
Yeah, like I tell people all the time, I wish I second shot more when I started. Um, but like reaching out to people and trying to, second shoot with them, or not even second shoot, because I don't think people understand the gravity of a second shooter, right? You're just starting out. You should not be second shooting. You should
Right.
be assisting, right? And maybe in that first, year of photography, you should only be assisting, right? The
Right.
job of a second shooter is crucial. You have to be able to do my job. If we're on the way to a wedding and something happens to me or whatever, you have to be able to go in and cover everything. So if you're just starting out and you're the only person that I have to rely on, you know,
Mm, nope.
it's
Nope.
going to be doomed for all of us, right? But then to take it a step further, like you were saying, get as much experience as you possibly can. I think that people are too quick to want to grab a camera and get in there and like start shooting or whatever without knowing the nuances. Like I've had people come and assist and I get their images back. They're shooting at a 50th of a second on a 70 to 200. Like, what are you doing, fam? And then you don't know why your images are blurry. You need to understand the mechanics of photography as well as the mechanics of what happens in a wedding day, and to be able to get enough experience to go out on your own to avoid things like my images turned out terrible, I'm trying to sue type thing. So keep that in mind. And then our last question before we do our giveaway, Alexis is asking, do you ask clients to share their photos on your portfolio or on social media, or do you put that in your contract?
Oh, it's just in my contract. I just have a model release in there.
Right.
Um, and I've also always um, just decided what I'm going to post and when and how. I never was one of those people who was like, oh, because I had a wedding, I have to post the pictures, because the one time something happens and you don't post right after a wedding and you don't post their pictures and they start thinking that you just didn't like their wedding or that type of thing, it can go downhill quick. So,
100%. So yeah, we are wrapping up our call because both Michelle and I both have to go, right? But we thank you all for joining in this conversation. Now, if you've been on the call, you've seen the little box out there, right? So we have the Bokeh Photo Summit, August the 12th through the 14th in Atlanta. And on this webinar, on this webinar, we are doing $100 off for everybody that wants to sign up. So if you use code Michelle, you can sign up and get $100 off the registration. And now we are going to do our giveaway sponsored by Sigma. Now, if you already have a ticket to the summit, we'll upgrade you. If you're at basic, we'll upgrade you to VIP. Um, and other than that, let's share this screen and make this thing happen. Where is the share screen? Share screen. Here we go. Cool. So without further ado, I'm gonna act like Vanna White and make this thing happen, right? So let's see who it will be. Of course, of course.
oh,
I got of course, of course. Marvin, congratulations, Marvin.
then.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Oh, where? Let me see if he commented. No,
Oh,
he
he
hasn't.
commented quite. Let's see. Yeah, and you better be at happy hour tonight too.
He hasn't commented about the win or whatever, but we know. Uh, we know it's you, Marvin. But again, thanks for everybody signing up to come in and chat with myself and Michelle. If you guys aren't already, be sure you join the Bokeh Academy Facebook group. I know some of you may be watching in there, others may not be, but you'll stay up to date about everything that's going on with Bokeh Academy and the courses, as well as the Bokeh Photo Summit. But next week, um, next week on the 14th, I believe it is. Yes, on the 14th, we're actually going live with Sal Sincata, who will be joining us at 2 p.m. for a webinar. So Jamal says rigged. Oh, you saw it for yourself, bro. He said not Marvin. Not Marvin. Hell no, that's what.
Yeah, so this is me commenting. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, but thank you all for joining us, and I hope to see you all next week and at the Bokeh Photo Summit. Later, guys.